Who am I? Where did I come from? In the quietest moments of human life, when the noise of the outer world subsides and worldly desires suddenly seem meaningless, perhaps you've asked yourself, who am I? Where did I come from? Why am I here? These are not merely philosophical questions. They're the deep, raw echoes of the human spirit. A child might ask them while gazing up at the stars. A person on their deathbed might whisper them with aching urgency. No matter who we are, a scientist, a father, a young woman seeking purpose, or a lost soul wandering city streets, we all share one timeless yearning, the longing to know our origin. Throughout human history, we've created countless theories, myths, and beliefs to answer this longing. Science speaks of the Big Bang, of single-celled organisms evolving into primates, then into humans. Mythology tells of gods shaping us from clay, from blood, or from sacred breath. Religions offer the image of a divine creator fashioning both the universe and the human soul. But amidst the vast sky of these narratives, the Buddha offered a vision unlike any other, one that does not demand blind faith, nor rely on a supreme creator. He didn't speak of an absolute beginning. Instead, he revealed a continuum of cause and effect, a stream of dependent origination where existence has no fixed start or end, only the unceasing flow of karma and consciousness. And in this flow, the human form is but a temporary stop, a role in the grand play of rebirth. In the Awaken, a strange and symbolic discourse, the Buddha describes that humans did not simply appear at random, nor were they crafted by a divine hand. We came from beings of radiant light, pure and formless, who fell into the material world out of a single desire, a glance toward the sweetness of the earth. And from that one act, craving, distinction, and suffering arose. So, if you ever felt that something about this life is not quite right, if you've ever sensed you were playing a role that doesn't truly belong to you, or long for a distant homeland without a name, maybe, just maybe, you are remembering what you once were before becoming human. This article does not claim to give you a definitive answer, but it does invite you on a journey from the light of original being through the shadows of craving and ignorance and toward the path that leads back to your true nature. Are you ready? The origin of humanity according to the Awaken. There are ancient stories that don't need to be proven under a microscope or reduced to mathematical formulas, yet they touch the deepest layers of human consciousness, depths where modern science still treads carefully. The Awaken, a remarkable discourse delivered by the Buddha over 2,500 years ago, is not merely a religious myth. It is a mirror reflecting the inner world and the spiritual dynamics of existence, something we often forget in the rush of modern life. Unlike theories such as the Big Bang or Darwinian evolution, the Awaken does not speak of genetic mutations or natural selection. The Buddha, with his supreme insight, presented a kind of spiritual cosmology in which the origin of humanity is not a biological accident, but the result of profound transformations in consciousness. The narrative begins not with mud or primordial floods, but with light, pure, radiant beings dwelling in realms of luminosity, without form, desire, or suffering. But from a single flicker of curiosity, from the slightest turn toward attachment, the long descent into human existence begins. Bodies take shape. Craving arises. Power structures, social divisions, and suffering unfold, like dust gathering on what was once a pristine mirror of awareness. So where did we truly come from? Could be that we did not merely evolve from apes, but also devolve from light? This question is not just philosophical. It is a call to remember. To understand this profound and symbolic journey, let's now explore the core message of the Awaken, a teaching that many Buddhist scholars have described as an epic of degeneration and awakening, the decline of consciousness and the birth of society. Have you ever wondered why human society grows increasingly chaotic, why people seem more disconnected than ever, and why we often feel a strange emptiness even when surrounded by material abundance? Perhaps the problem isn't out there, but hidden deep within the folds of our own consciousness. According to the Buddha in the Awaken, humans did not fall from the sky, nor were they randomly created. We are the result of a subtle inner transformation from beings of pure radiance. It took just one innocent curiosity, a single thought to taste the sweetness of the world, for an endless tragedy to begin. That was the first slip of consciousness, from simply knowing to wanting, from pure presence to desire and attachment. And from that one thought of wanting arose comparison, competition, the birth of social classes, ownership, conflict, and relentless suffering. Society didn't arise from wisdom. It was born out of fear. Fear of loss, harm, isolation. That is why humans began building rules, establishing authority, and unknowingly locking themselves in cages of their own design. A world full of logic, yet empty of compassion. But perhaps the saddest truth is not that society has gone astray, but that we have forgotten. Everything begins in the mind. And until we see through the mind's workings, all external solutions remain just paint on a decaying wall. Science versus Buddhist view on human origins. 1. Darwin's evolutionary theory. From microbes to humans. Charles Darwin's theory of evolution, introduced in the 19th century, is a cornerstone of modern biology. It asserts that life is not the product of sudden creation or a divine act, but gradual process unfolding over billions of years. All living organisms share a common ancestor. Simple life forms that emerged more than 3.5 billion years ago. Through natural selection, organisms better adapted to their environment are more likely to survive and reproduce. Over immense time spans, life evolved from single-celled organisms to multicellular beings, vertebrates, primates, and finally modern humans, Homo sapiens, who appear about 300,000 years ago. In this view, evolution is purposeless, driven by survival, not spiritual destiny. 2. The Buddhist perspective, origins rooted in mind and karma. In contrast, Buddhism sees human origin not as biological chance, but as a result of karmic momentum and the mind's cyclic rebirths. According to the Awaken Sutta, human beings didn't begin as physical entities. Sentient beings initially existed in a pure, radiant state, bodiless and luminous. As craving arose, symbolized by tasting the sweetness of the earth, these beings began to experience duality, desire, and eventually took form. In this view, mind is the true progenitor, not matter. Humanity doesn't evolve biologically, but rather devolves spiritually, descending from original purity into ignorance and attachment. 3. Comparison, parallels and contrasts. Aspect evolutionary theory Buddhist view, Awaken Sutta. Initial origin material cells luminous mind. Developmental process, natural selection gradual spiritual decline. Purpose of existence none liberation from suffering and rebirth. Human essence biological karmic, spiritual. Time scale millions of years timeless/symbolic. The only real similarity lies in both models acknowledging a long, gradual transformation rather than instant creation, but their motivations diverge. Darwin's theory is rooted in physical survival. The Awaken Sutta is a moral psychological story about how desire corrupts purity. 4. Symbolism in the Sutta, hidden meanings. The Awaken Sutta should not be read as a literal origin myth. It is rich in symbolism that maps the mind's decline. Beings of light represent enlightened awareness, akin to Buddha nature. Tasting the earth's sweetness symbolizes the birth of craving and sensuality. The physical body reflects clinging and self-identification, the root of suffering. Social stratification arises from the mind's division, envy, and ego, leading to karmic cycles. The true message is not where humans came from biologically, but how suffering arises from a single moment of ignorance, and how to return to clarity through inner awakening. The path back to the light, mindfulness and meditation, the doorway back to the self. In today's chaotic world, we often live like wanderers drifting through life, carried away by a whirlwind of thoughts, worries, and endless desires. Deep in our hearts, many of us carry a vague sense that we once were something purer, gentler, before the bruises of life began to bend us out of shape. The Buddha did not promise a heaven or some distant place after death. Instead, he pointed out that in each present moment, one can return to the original light within, simply by stopping, looking inward, and letting go of the layers of identity built by the ego. The tools for this return are mindfulness, sati, and meditation, samadhi. Mindfulness is not about sitting still to escape life. It is about being fully awake in every moment, whether eating, walking, breathing, or facing pain. Meditation is not about suppressing thoughts, but seeing them clearly, like clouds passing across the sky of the mind, neither grasping nor rejecting them. When we dwell in the breath, knowing we are alive, breathing, walking, then we are no longer victims of the past nor haunted by the future. We simply exist, pure and vibrant as in the very beginning. A true story. The man in the darkness in his heart. He was a successful businessman, living in a luxury apartment in downtown Saigon. Money was abundant. Fame was achieved. Yet at night he lay awake, staring into the silence. One day, his wife filed for divorce after 10 years of marriage. Their little daughter went with her. He broke down. Though he had once confidently run an entire company, now he couldn't even manage his own mind. Each day felt like a sentence. He asked himself, what did I do wrong? Who am I now? An old friend introduced him to a 10-day silent meditation retreat. At first, he thought it was madness. 10 days without a phone, without talking, without contact. But he agreed as a last gamble. In the early days, he struggled. Sitting still for an hour just to observe the breath stirred up old pain buried deep in his subconscious. He wanted to quit. But then, one silent morning, as sunlight filtered through the meditation hall window, a realization dawned on him. No one made me suffer. I've just been clinging to the pain and refusing to let it go. On the 8th day, tears rolled down his cheeks, not from sadness, but from release. For the first time in years, he felt he was truly alive, not chasing a goal, not proving anything, just breathing and knowing he was breathing. After the retreat, he didn't become enlightened, but he changed. No longer angry, no longer entangled in pointless arguments. He now spends 15 minutes every day sitting quietly, simply to return. For him, this is the path back to the light he once thought was lost. We have traveled together through a profound journey, from the pure light of original consciousness, through the shadows of ignorance and craving, toward a path of return where awakening awaits. According to the Buddhist teachings, the origin of humankind is not located in a specific piece of land or a distant planet, but in the ever-moving stream of consciousness. We are not merely products of genetics or biological evolution. We are manifestations of karma, the sum of countless thoughts, actions, and desires across lifetimes. From a formless, luminous existence, beings gradually lost their inner light due to a single moment of craving. Just one taste of the earth's sweetness was enough to trigger a long cycle of suffering, separation, conflict, and hatred. Yet here lies the hope. If the fall began with one thought, then the return can also begin with one thought, a moment of awakened awareness. Within each of us, that light is already present. It is only obscured by the dust of time, bias, and forgetfulness. Mindfulness is not some lofty ideal. It is simply the ability to return to the present moment, to observe ourselves without judgment, and to recognize the unconscious currents that guide our lives. Try spending just 1 minute a day breathing slowly, feeling your heartbeat, listening to the sound around you. 1 minute is enough to plant the seed of mindfulness. And that seed, when cared for, can grow into a forest of awakening within you. The path of return is not easy, but you are not alone. Millions of people throughout time have wandered through the same darkness in search of light. The Buddha is not a savior. He is a guide. Whether or not you take the path is up to you. Will you dare to return?